Welcome back to Bloom. Alcohol consumption has definitely increased during the pandemic. So how can you notice if you or someone you care about is headed toward a drinking problem and using alcohol to manage feelings or cope with stress? Joining us to discuss is Lisa Boucher, who is an RN and the award-winning author of Raising the Bottom, Making Mindful Choices in a Drinking Culture. Welcome to Bloom, Lisa.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for having me.
Oh, such an important subject because a lot of folks are turning to alcohol to cope during the pandemic. What impact has this had on families?
It's the repercussions are endless, and it really depends how much someone is drinking. But I mean, kids are stuck in these environments that it depends. Some people, when they drink, they might just go to sleep in the corner if they drink too much, but others get extremely angry or mean or physically abusive. So the repercussions of in-home drinking when you're isolated, when you're secluded. I know I just read a couple days ago, there were 18 children in a Nevada school system that committed suicide. So we have to say, is this because what's going on in the homes? And not to turn this into an episode about the, kids going back to school, but these are the things that I don't think we are talking enough about, that it's not all about the pandemic because there's other casualties. And alcohol during the pandemic, they've made it very, very easy to drink while you're at home, and people are getting alcohol delivered to their door. And there's a lot of new apps and things like that popped up during the pandemic. So it's extremely easy to stay home, isolate yourself, drink. And I believe, Gail, a lot of it comes down to coping skills that there was one study that said 55% of the people were drinking more during the pandemic because of stress. So we need to start and walk it back and say, well, why can't more adults cope with stress in a healthy manner? So these are the things that we need to be working on and teaching our children so it doesn't become a go-to coping skill to reach for the glass or the bottle or whatever. Because although you get that initial, sigh of relief, and sometimes I'd love to have that again, I haven't had a drink in 31 years. So it's been a long time when I've been able to take the edge off when you are in a stressful situation. But I've had to learn other ways to cope, and exercise has been great for me. Nature's been great. I feed the birds, look, if I'm stuck at home, I've got people come over and they're like, my God, your yard is like Snow White. So I found things to make me smile and take the edge off and to focus on besides opening a bottle of wine, because that's exactly what I used to do. So I can relate to people doing that, but it ended up being a problem for me, and it is for so many.
Well, it is, because I think that, we live in a culture where it supports drinking. It makes it look glamorous. It's almost like back in the day when people were smoking, and that would look so glamorous. And so, it's an easy go-to. But I think your ideas of finding other ways to cope, and I find it fascinating. You're right. We really do not know how to cope. We haven't been taught coping mechanisms, and that is something that we need to focus on. Any other ideas of how we could cope?
Well, I think it goes back to, if we want to delve further into that if we learn those, it goes back to parenting. So parenting has become marginalized in many ways because people are having very stressful careers or other things. So when you pile all of that on any one person, and I think, Gail, we have to go back to dig down a little bit deeper, and it goes back to know thyself. And let me just give you an example. So I knew for me, so I got sober, I'm going back 31 years. I'm newly sober, I'm in nursing school, and I have twin babies that are 6 months old. So I am stressed and I have no coping skills.
You're right.
And I noticed I had no coping skills when something happened, and my immediate reaction was go to the refrigerator
And grab
I
some-
heard the pop.
Yep,
But
yep.
it was a liqueur or something
Yeah.
like that, a sparkling water. But I recognized my pattern. So we have to start there and recognize what we're doing first before we can change it.
All right. Well, Lisa, I wish we could talk more about this. We're running out of time, but I know folks want to learn more. So if you want to know more about Lisa and her mission, visit racingthebottom.com. Thank you so much for joining us on Bloom.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to be
Take
back
care.
with more Bloom right after this.